The ease comes from working less from our minds and more from our hearts and intuition. When I try to fix things and come from such a cognitive space of fixing, thinking my way through things, things get chaotic, things get messy, things get really, really hard.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I'm your host. My name is Karolina, and I am the Connection Catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show, we have Britley Ann Williams, the lifestyle coach. Welcome to the show, Britley. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. And you are just giving me so much energy already. I needed some today. I'm so happy to be
I
here.
am a manifestor generator. So some people say that this human design can, have a lot of energy and just keep on going. And I
I am
actually
as
can keep on
well.
going because I just had a session with a client. This is first podcast. After that, I have another one. And I'm sure I'm going to have energy for all of that because I still do. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is amazing. I'm so excited to talk to you especially because I know that you have a brand called Divine Your Life. And I am super, super curious about this brand and what it means to you. But first, before we jump into that, I would love you to share the story behind how you started to be, into coaching, into the divinity of who we are, because usually, there is something in our life that happened to bring us on this path. So I would love you to share what has happened for you.
Thank you so much for asking. Not to go full into it because we could be here all day, but my story is I grew up in Austin, Texas, very traditional family, just did kind of always follow the path and the course that I was told was correct. I did real estate and pharmaceutical sales for many years. It was until last year, 2 years ago, 2020, when the pandemic hit that I had the awakening, I would say, alongside a lot of other people, right? I think that was a very transformational time in history and our own personal histories. Um, I had, you know, I kind of had it all, if you will, everything from the facade of what looks like success to the external eye. I had a really healthy looking body. I had a boyfriend and a house and a dog and a career, and I had everything that I had ever envisioned myself to be successful in, and I was very empty inside. I was actually at kind of the height of an eating disorder at the time the pandemic hit, and I really had a awakening with myself that I was so unhappy and that there were so many areas in my life that I was avoiding and just distracting from. And I got really, really honest with myself. I sat really, really still. I found breath work. Breath work was the catalyst, I would say, that allowed me to drop back into my body because, as you know, in eating disorders, people are often very disconnected, right? Their heart and their mind are at war, their body, they have a lot of internal tension, if you will. And it was breath work that allowed me to kind of quiet the thoughts just enough, quiet the emotions just enough to kind of tap back into that intuition and be able to have that communication of that internal dialogue that a lot of us are missing on a day to day. We kind of just get up, fly by the seat of our pants, right? And not a lot of us take the time, if you will, to slow down and to get to really know our internal truth and who we are. So I would say breathwork was the start of that. And from there, I just began to pivot. I ended up picking up my life, moving to Denver, Colorado, where I knew nobody, with just this faith, this knowing, this confidence that I had never embodied before. And I decided I was going to rediscover myself, and that is exactly what I did. I in every area, I questioned everything I was doing. I made a list of what was working and what wasn't working, and I just simply put down everything that was not working. Started to pick up and lean into those things that were the communities, the connections, the job, the lifestyle, the habits. I got really granular, and it took quite some time. But I would love to say now that I have stepped into my power. I really know who I am, and although I'm still working hard to unlearn a lot and the conditioning, I feel like I have more communication with my intuition, my higher self, and this universe than I have ever had before. So that's a roundabout way.
Mm. Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Wow, that sounds beautiful. And I love this
Mhm.
feeling of like, as you say, you just move somewhere, you don't know anyone, you're recreating yourself from
Yeah.
scratch. I've done it multiple times in my life where I just moved to a different country on the other side of the world and I was just on my own, knowing no one, and just being able to rebuild my identity from scratch. Because, if you don't have people who are around you who have some kind of idea about you, then you can really start from the beginning. You can recreate yourself for who you want to be without any people's judgments. Because even if these judgments are not negative necessarily, it's still kind of like putting you in a box of who you are and how you would behave, or how these people who know you, how they perceive you. And if you are in a completely different place with a new fresh perspective on your own, you can literally start from scratch and rebuild yourself as who you want to be. So I completely relate to this feeling of, just going somewhere, just trusting, that having faith that everything is going to work out. I love this feeling. It's such a freedom. It's total freedom. But yeah, it's very beautiful that the pandemic has got you awake. And I think that it's very beautiful that, it's things that happen that are maybe not perceived as that good for us actually have the flip side of always having some benefits. So it's very beautiful that you share that, pandemic was the reason for you to actually look for something more, which is really really great. And so I would like to touch a little bit about this topic of breathwork, because I know that you're involved in the company called Pause Breathwork. And I wanted to ask, like, what is this about, first of all, and second of all, for yourself, from your experience, and maybe just what you have gone through with your clients, what is the most effective, or is there even the most effective breath work, or is there something that, for example, works for specific issues that you found that was the most beneficial for you? I'm really curious to know from your perspective of breath work as being your one of the methods that got you out of the eating disorder. And if I might ask also, what was the disorder as well, because maybe some people who listen know someone who has the same. Maybe they could also recommend them to try it out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Such good questions. Yeah. So, and just to tap on the pandemic, I think what it really was a time for us to be forced into stillness. I was never really allowing myself to be still, to drop into my body, to really get to know myself, right? I lived in such a sympathetic state, meaning like a fight or flight all the time. I think, you know, putting my worth into buckets of my appearance, into what I looked like, all these external factors that we often find ourselves doing really is what led to the eating disorder, which ended up just being a basically body dysmorphia, right? I looked in the mirror and I saw something completely different than what everybody else around me saw. And it was really disheartening and really sad. I ended up binging and restricting, um, and basically got to the point where I was just consumed. All my mental space was taken up by what I was eating, when I was going to eat it, and then feeling so much guilt around eating, whether it was healthy or unhealthy, it didn't really matter at that point, right? Because I was quote unquote putting calories in my body, and then I therefore had to work them off. So a very disordered mindset around eating, I think, in a time where it felt like I didn't have a whole lot of control. The one thing I thought I could control was my food and my body. So I went really dark down that rabbit hole. And the first person that I told was my boyfriend at the time, my ex. And it's difficult when you don't have any relation to an eating disorder. It's hard to relate to somebody. So he didn't really quite understand, and his way of supporting me was, well, maybe we just be better. Maybe we just eat better food. He couldn't understand that what was really coming, the underlying issue was that I was disconnected from my body. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have my throat chakra open. I didn't know my truth. I wasn't aware, right? So the first step in that was the stillness, the recollection, the awareness, and then the longing to do something, of course, but then getting really still, not having so many distractions. I couldn't go to work. I had to sit with myself. Do you know how hard it is to sit with yourself when you don't like yourself very much, right? It can be a difficult time. So when I sat still, I tried a couple different practices. And again, different practices will work for different people. Breathwork happened to be the one that I picked up after trying some meditation, and yoga really got me back into my body, and movement was really good for working out some of that energy and moving my body with more intuitiveness rather than obligation or guilt. When I found breath work, what I discovered was it it got me It got me back to my truth and to my true essence the quickest. So there's different breath patterns that are used for different emotions, different timings. You can go for 3 minutes all the way up to 35 minutes. There's a lot of different things, and that might be for a separate podcast. But Pause, like you mentioned, the breathwork company that I work for now is led by Samantha Skelly, who has been a mentor of mine long before I worked for her. It was kind of a miracle that I'm able to work alongside her now. She has an app that will guide you through different breath work, so from beginners all the way to experienced breathers, if you will. And basically, what they do is we use different patterns um, to to really meditate through. So I think what's beautiful about breath work is it takes the concept of meditation, which can take some people a long time to get comfortable and sit into and get confident in, and it expedites that process. So you really start to use the breath to release emotions and move energy, right? I think what happens is we get stagnant and we get stuck. And if you know anything about trauma, trauma lives in the body in the shape of energetic blocks, right? Sometimes it will even hurt, right? We have lower back issues, things like that. It's because we have so much built up energy. So breath work will come in, it will quiet the conscious mind, which we work 5% from, and tap into that subconscious mind where we access 95% of our decision making, things like that, and really drop it down and allow it to be open so we can then hear it, feel it, our intuition, and things like that. So that's a lot of that was a big question, but um, yeah, that's so specifically breathwork. I would say quiets the mind, quiets the emotions, and allows you to feel your body. Something that's really hard to do if you live in that sympathetic state where you're just going all the time.
Yeah, thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing. And I am also very much in love with breath work. Maybe it's not my main practice, but
Mm.
I know that I'm a person that is like very moving all the time and like doing all these things. I mean, I'm a manifestor generator, so obviously I'm gonna like manifest and generate and do all these things.
Yes.
But then I find that sometimes I even don't realize like, oh, okay, my body is in stress now. I'm gonna just take a
Mm,
few slow, long breaths and just make it as long as possible, and then I'm
mhm.
cooperating after a few minutes. I'm operating from a completely different perspective, not
Yeah,
just go 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 go, but like, okay, I'm
yeah,
gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, but it's
yeah.
not like this constant rush of having to do something and do the next thing. So I
Mhm,
totally love breath work, and it's so good to consciously breathe because it's kind of like a connection to your soul.
mm,
It's a presence. It's something
yeah,
that really drops you to here and now, where you can be in connection to the wholeness of you, not only
mm,
to your mind that constantly goes to the next thing, but actually to your essence and who you inherently are. So yeah, I love everything that you shared. Thank you so much for sharing that.
mm,
And I would love to go into this question that I'm the most curious about: divine your life.
yeah,
What does it mean to divine your life, and how can people do it?
yeah. Oh, it means so many things, but to me, the name Divine Your Life came to me in a dream. I had been playing with it. I'd been ready to launch this business, ready to step into this space of healing and really coaching people back to their essence and, like you just said, their wholeness. I love that you said that because who are we, right? And sometimes we get so disconnected we don't even know. So to divine your life mean it doesn't mean, and I wanted to state this earlier, you don't have to uproot your life and move to a different city. And although that's very liberating and expansive, and there's so much to reinvent when you do something like that, it's not realistic for everybody, right? At all times. So we have our practices, we have our journaling and our prayers and our meditations, and then we often go back to the life, the lifiness of life, right? Okay, I set my intention this morning and then I went back and I did my work. But to divine your life means to integrate them both, to have your spiritual practices, to know who you are, to be so in tune and so alive in the truth of you without any hesitation and without any feeling like you have to be something else that you've been boxed in as, or whatever label of success and belonging that you have created at such a young age and that the society has kind of impacted and imprinted on you, and to release those chains, to come home to who you truly are, and then to be able to actually live that out every single day, all day long. Not just in the morning before the world has had its touch on you, and not just in the evening after you're winding down for a day, but to really live in your true essence, in your confidence, in your most pure expression all day long, no matter what you're doing. And that doesn't mean that you have to be a life coach or a yogi, right? You can go to work at State Farm and lead with a lot of love. You can do whatever it is that you're doing from a place of trueness, wholeness, intuition, knowing yourself, loving yourself along the way, and it will change the trajectory of your life. I think there's such a, especially in our world of healing and spirituality, there's such a label that there's almost a power dynamic, right? Like, I'm better because I'm doing these things, and it's not true. We get to do and be exactly who we are, doing exactly what we love in the exact space that the universe, God, whatever it is that you name it, has placed you to do, but do it with so much love and so much less weight and tension and trauma, knowing who you are in your essence, and you really go through the world with just a different lens and different colored glasses, if you will. So to divine your life means to take who you are in your true essence into your everyday and be able to just touch the lives around you with so much love and impact and ease. Really, it just gets to be so easy.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so, so much for sharing that. And I have a question based on what you said. Like, do you feel like it's realistic to actually be in this state all the time?
Hmm. Yeah, that's such a good question. No. Thank you. Thank you for reiterating, right? Because it's constant involvement. It's constant work. To say that I am never triggered is the biggest lie, right? But here's what happens. We will go about our day and life will get lifey and crunchy all the time. People will, you know, let us down. All the things will happen. But how do we react to them? Right? We either identify with that action, and with that trigger, it consumes us, it carries us, it lives in our body. We take it on as our own, or we learn the discernment over time how to observe it, how to see it for what it is. And yes, of course, emotions are going to come up, but I think the biggest part is holding those emotions. I gained so much confidence when I stopped being frustrated with and having so much angst for the part of me that was fearful and doubtful. I love her now. I'm like, of course you're fearful. This is scary shit. I don't know if I can cuss on here. This is scary, right? Whatever we're doing, whatever we're stepping into, this is a lot. I always think when I started my podcast, there was a voice in me that says, "You're not qualified. What are you going to talk about?" And I was like, "You're right. I've never done this. This is super scary. I'm not yet qualified for this. Absolutely. Let's do it anyway." Just really getting to know that inner voice that is telling you what to do and who to be and what to look like, and really just accepting them, right? So what I teach my clients up front is, how do we get to know that inner voice then so that it doesn't consume us? How do we build a relationship with it? How do we know that it's just protecting us? It's just trying to love us. It's trying to do its best. And with that conversation and that communication that we have, the internal dialogue, it just changes the trajectory of everything. It changes when hardships happen. It changes when our boyfriend or our girlfriend or our spouse or our partner make us really mad and betray us, right? We still have this sense of knowing who we are, and we have this energetic protection around us. So it doesn't engulf us and change the trajectory of our days. It really doesn't. It impacts us, and it's allowed to, but we learn to hold space for it and love it and lead with curiosity, I think, over resentment and all those other sticky emotions that we as humans feel throughout the day.
Yes, and I can absolutely relate to that because for me now, when I'm triggered, I'm actually quite excited because
Mm,
I know that my life is going to be even better after I go through it. And
totally.
there's still this observer mentality. And sometimes it's quite funny because sometimes this observer mentality is kind of like laughing at me just being in the trigger. It's like, oh, it's quite funny what has triggered you this time, but I'm still like going through my sadness or grief or whatever. But at
Right.
the same time, I'm just thinking, that's quite hilarious. Like, what can trigger you sometimes, you
Yes.
know? So I totally relate to that. And I feel like the more work you do on yourself, the more divine you feel
Mm,
in your everyday life. I mean, the more connection you have, and then the less all these things that are happening in your life are actually affecting you because you are really like embodying this peace, this inner bliss. If you will, or this joy of just existing, and no matter what happens, no matter what triggers us and what doesn't, we are still present and we are still accepting and allowing for everything that comes to us and really being aware of everything, because we can, if we allow everything, there is nothing that can actually get us out of balance if we are just accepting anything that happens, right? And of course it's not as easy to do as we can just say it, but we can at least aim for being in this divine flow and just really letting whatever happen, and then we can realize that okay, maybe it's not as hard as I thought that it would be. But I would love to really talk about this ease, because you say okay, if you come from this divine place, if you embody this wholeness of who you are, everything becomes so easy. But I feel like so many people still struggle, and so maybe it's not easy for them to be at this ease, or maybe it's not easy for them to trust or to embody this wholeness of who they are. So what would you say, what advice would you give to people who maybe are feeling very uneasy in their life and they would like to embody
Mm.
and divine their life, right? But
Yeah.
they don't know where to start or how to do it.
Yes, such a good question. And I will answer it. I just want to go back a little bit. And I want to start by saying, and just add some credibility here, is that I lived in that state. So I understand if you are in a sticky season of life and it feels overwhelming and you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, ease, if you only knew, right? If you only knew what I was dealing with, if you only knew the responsibilities I have currently, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a husband, whatever it is, I carry the weight of this family, right? We all have things that are that we feel are so heavy that we are holding. And I want to first acknowledge that because it's real and life. It just I get passionate here. I have to take a deep breath because I understand completely. And back to your point of the trigger, I say never waste a good trigger because a trigger is such an opportunity to learn. But to answer your question about
Never
these,
waste a good
never
trigger.
waste a good trigger. They're all good,
That's such a good point.
right? Um, but the ease comes from working less from our minds and more from our hearts and intuition. When I try to fix things and come from such a cognitive space of fixing, thinking my way through things, things get chaotic, things get messy, things get really, really hard. When I am thinking and constantly living up here in this space, that's all I can see. And going back to what I said previously, 95 to 98% of our thoughts, our decisions, how we interact, how we react come from a subconscious space that was created, if you will, between the ages of 0 and 8 years old. So a lot of us are working from a space of learned behavior from the ages of 0 to 8 years old, right? There's a lot of times I'll react to something and I'll thought, is that adult day, present day Britley, or was that 7-year-old Britley, right? It's really true. And 5% is from our cognitive conscious space. So if only 5% is alive and with us and our adult self, that other big portion has such a pull on our day to day, right? So if we don't learn to get to know that space and to drop into our bodies and learn to connect that space with our intuition, then we will just constantly be fighting against ourselves. I think I used this metaphor this week with a client. It's like you have a stallion, like the fastest, veiniest horse ever running in the direction of your dreams, but it's chained to 98 donkeys walking the other way, right? It's like you could have the most pure conscious, but if you don't take the time to drop into your body, learn your intuition, and rewire the parts of your subconscious that are limiting you and making you feel super unsafe and super triggered and super heightened all the time, then you will never experience a life of ease. So there is the work component, right? It gets to be both. It's easy, but you have to work to learn to know those parts of you. Um, and when I quiet my mind down and when I get too up here in my head and start to create issues and worry about things, 95% of our thoughts are repeated from the day before. 90% of them are negative. So we're living in this conscious thinking state, trying to think our way out of things. But when you can stop and drop into your body, get to know your truth, realign with your pure essence, like we talked about so many times already, you get to live your life in that divine presence all of the time. It's not something I'm just saying, and I can again attest from the space that I used to live in, which was very flighty, very money oriented, look oriented, to who I am now, which is completely different. But you have to do the work to get there a little bit, right? It does take some work. Yeah,
So do you feel like the most important practice is to tap into your subconscious mind?
I do. Yeah. I think it is to
Hmm.
come back to who you
Yeah.
truly are. I think it is to really reflect on the parts of your life that you feel are conditioned into you, the parts that you want and are chasing after. Ask yourself why, right? I wonder how many of our needs are trying to be met in our career, right? Our needs for validation, for fulfillment, for being seen. I wonder how many of us are trying to meet those needs in external factors before we've even thought to ask ourselves if we could meet us here. And if so, where is
Mm.
the gap? And what do you need? I'd love to preface this if this feels overwhelming. You innately know and have all the answers already. And what a freeing and beautiful feeling that is, that you truly already have all the answers and knowing within you. You just have to step into it and tap into it and learn to get to know him or her, right? I think. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, how do people get to know this part of them?
Yeah.
How do people do that?
Tap into a community, get connected in a space with people who are calibrating higher than you are. Right? Because you enter a space in a community of people who are evolving and learning, and your frequency naturally goes there. I would say tap into community, ask for support. Don't be stubborn. You do not have to do this on your own. There are so many people that would love to support you. Secondly, find a modality, find a practice, find something that quiets you enough. 5 minutes a day, 3 minutes a day. Give yourself 1 minute a day to breathe, to drop in, to be still, to put your phone upside down and quit to being so, stimulated by external factors, and just be with yourself. I think that's something that people have a hard time with. But well, when do I have the time? What does that even look like? It can look however you want it to look. I'm a big advocate for journaling. I'm a big advocate for spilling things out on paper without any judgment for how it looks and getting thoughts out of our brains and onto a piece of paper. I'm a big advocate for breath work, obviously, right? I would love to, I haven't mentioned this here, but I would love to give you and your listeners a $15 off subscription to the Pause app. And they also get 14 days free trial. So maybe they could download it. Just play with that, right? I think for me, I'm also a manifesting generator. So meditation feels intimidating for me. I like to be productive at all times. I can't even take a nap. So for breath work, I'm in that meditative state and I'm doing something. So I think for someone who feels a little bit intimidated by meditation, breath work could be a great alternative. I also think it gets us there quicker, if you will. But journaling, movement, yoga, community, seek things out that make you uncomfortable, maybe, or that are, again, calibrating higher. You see people living in the space, whoever you want to be and whatever you picture. What if you were to just embody that person and that version of you? Where would they go? What would they do? Start to do that. Start to own that. Start to tap into it. You don't have to go all at once, but just be curious around what that looks like. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing this
Yeah.
practice. I love this practice of just embodying, let's say, like, the future version of you that already has all that you want to have. And then what would you choose or say or do based on that version of yourself? And then you're going to embody it more and more. Thank you so much for sharing that. Really, it's inspiring. But, so many people actually still struggle to like slow down and loosen our grip. And, as a manifestor generator who has so much energy and wants to manifest all these things, it's even harder, I feel like, to slow down and also let the universe work it out for you to just loosen your grip. So what would be, your advice or top 3 tips for people who actually still are like, okay, how the hell do I slow down?
Yeah.
How the hell am I not attached and lose my grip?
Oh, yes. Ooh, top three. Okay, let me think. I'm going to borrow this visual, and I cannot remember who gave it to me. So I am borrowing it. It's not mine on my own, but it's beautiful nonetheless. I always picture my favorite flower. So take a minute to just picture your favorite flower. For me, it's a sunflower, right? Picture it in the palm of your hand. Picture it flourishing. Picture it vibrant, colorful. Now picture yourself closing your fist as tight as you can around that flower, right? You're depriving it of everything it needs: sunlight, oxygen, love, water. And to turn your palm over and to open up your hand is to let it go. But to keep your palm face up and to loosen your grip is just I'm so sorry, to turn your palm over is to give up. To keep your palm face up and to open your fingers is to let go, right? And that flower gets to blossom and bloom. I just think about how many things in our life we are trying to control. I think we as humans want to control so many things. I think control is also an illusion, right? What do we really have control over? And why do we want control? When there's a divine universe, God, whatever it is for you, higher power that has full control and has already created a life for you and already paved a path that you don't have to pave yourself, be on your hands and knees in concrete mud. You just have to walk it, right? We just make it really hard on ourselves. We really think that we are the creators of our life, and we everything that happens falls on our shoulders, and that's such a heavy weight to carry. I think the moment that I tapped into my faith, I use God, right? So the moment that I got to tap into him and get to know him, I took the biggest exhale. It's like I'd been inhaling for so long and I just exhaled. Oh, I don't have to do this all alone. I don't have to plan and project and step into this purpose and chase after something that I don't even know what it is. You've already divinely created a path, and I just have to know you and know myself enough to learn how to walk it. So slowing down, 3 tips. The biggest, most important thing, and I know it's a cliche and it's because it is so true, is discovering your self-love. What does it mean to love yourself? What is a ventral anchor? And by that I mean, what is something that you can bring yourself back to over and over again that you feel that you know feels good to your body? Write 5 of them down. For me, it's yoga, it's taking a hot bath, it's breath work, it's journaling, it's sitting outside with the sun on my face. Those are 5 things I just named off the top of my head that make me feel really, really alive and really, really present. Make a list of 5 of those things and prioritize them. Whatever it is that you're prioritizing over them for a week, don't do those things. Prioritize 1, 2, 3 of these 5 things. Get yourself to a space where you feel really, really alive and sit there for a moment. That's step 1. Step 2 for me would be leaning into support. And I know that that doesn't feel like being still, but find a community, and you can co-nourish and self-nourish, right? Co-nourishing is using somebody else saying, hey, look, I am in a heightened state. Could you help me work through this emotion? Or, hey, would you love to go to a yoga class with me? I would love, yoga's intimidating to me. I've never done it before. Would you try it out with me? Find people in your community that will do these amazing things alongside of you. And if you don't feel like you have that community, I wonder if you could self-nourish so that you could become that person in your community. So self-nourishment looks like a lot of things, right? It looks like cooking a healthy meal, being still, listening to a podcast, feeding your mind, your body, and your soul with those things that are in alignment with the frequency that you want to be. We spoke earlier on the person that you are longing to be, the job that you are longing to have, the partner you are longing to bring in. They're all alive right now in this world, right? We wouldn't know what they were if we didn't know that they were out there and possible for us. So they're all alive, living right now, breathing right now in this universe, in this ether. And I wonder if you could get in their frequency. I wonder if you could believe that they were yours already and start to think about them and manifest them and claim them as yours, right? So good. And for a third thing, go for a long walk. Go for a long walk when you get really, 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 really in your head and you are thinking things through and you are cognitively trying to get yourself through these emotions. Just put it down. Step away from it for a moment. Come back to it with a clear vision. Take some breath. Take some time. I love walking, but I will leave my phone at home because it would be really easy for me to walk and as an MG do 5 million things at once, but I put my phone at home and I go for a walk around the block. I literally have a 0.2-mile loop that I do because I get it out. I move the energy, I move the stagnance, I get that energy and that buildup out of my system, and then I come back with a clear head. So find your ventral tethers, those things that really quiet you down, that make you feel alive. Lean into support, either with yourself or with others, and be the support if you can. And then step away from the trigger for a moment. Don't ignore it, don't suppress it, but just step away from it. Allow it to be there and you to be here. Allow yourself to observe it rather than identify with it. I think those are 3 really, really good tangible tools that people can take into their week as a beautiful starting place.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I can totally relate to all of that and I resonate with it so much. And one thing that came to my mind is that, we are actually manifesting, we can envision everything that we want in our life if we can just believe it, that we deserve to have it and we are worthy of it. And when you said, just embody who you would be if you already had this beautiful partner or this beautiful job or whatever you want. And I've been recently really feeling into manifesting my dream partner for life, and I literally can like feel his energy. Like it's so real for me that I'm just like going to bed and I'm just laying down on my own in bed and I'm just like feeling how he spoons hugs me from the back, and I'm just feeling so good. And I'm like, he's already here. Like, it's not even like a question for me whether, it's just a matter of time for me of when this manifestation will come to fruition. And it's probably gonna come in the divine time that I need, however much time I need to work through my own stuff when I'm ready to attract him, like in my actual reality. But right now it just feels so normal for me that his energy is already here. Like, I know even what kind of personality he is, like what kind of things he's into, and it's just like so clear for me. And I feel like if we can visualize it and dream it and really imagine it, it can be real for us. But we need to really believe that we deserve to have everything that we want to have, because this is, I feel like, the biggest block to actually to make people also so in so much rush and doing things, taking so much action and so on, that they don't feel like they are worthy of receiving easily and effortlessly whatever they want, right? They feel like, okay, if I don't do all these things, then I don't deserve to get what I want, because there is karma, I need to give to receive and all these things. But actually you can easily manifest, and you can just receive without giving so much. You can just open yourself up and just hold the vision and really feel how it feels to be there, smell how it smells to already have what you want, like, use all the senses to be there. And then you're gonna be closer and closer to this reality in our whole quantum universe, to actually be in this reality where it's real for you. But first you need to really feel like inherently you are worthy to have everything that you desire, because I feel like that's the one of the biggest blocks why people are so just agitated all the time, doing things all the time, because
Right.
like, okay, if I don't do this, then I'm not going to get it, maybe I don't deserve it, oh, I need to I cannot slow down, how can I lose my grip if nothing is going to come to me if I do that. But I feel like, yeah, if you just slow down and actually relax about it all, then as this flower in your little
Yes.
visualization, which was really beautiful, you actually will let it blossom by itself, and it's
Yes.
effortless. Flower doesn't like make an effort to grow,
Right.
to blossom, it
It
just
doesn't
does
blossom
because
depending who
it's
walks buys it, right? It just blossoms. It just is. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
without any external conditions. It's just, okay, this is inherently what it is, and it just
Mhm.
blossoms. And we are also inherently who
Mhm.
we are, and we have all this potential in ourselves. But if we can tap into it and really lead our life from the intuition, from the soul level, as you
Mm.
mentioned before,
Mhm.
then we can blossom really easily and really effortlessly. But when we like, oh, our small mind, our ego needs to figure out
Mhm.
this and this and this way, it's like, okay, yeah, but then you're closing all these other easy and effortless ways of how this can manifest into your life.
Right. Totally. Oh, so I just got like full body chills when you said that. And two, I mean, we do. We were engraved to believe that productivity means hustle bustle, right? We have to earn our keep. We have to earn our worth. We have to earn our potential, our belonging. Again, coming back to those needs that we are meeting in our external factors. But what if I told you, like you just said, like just like a flower, you're innately worthy. If you did nothing for the rest of your life, nothing else, if you did nothing today but lay in bed all day long, you would still be so worthy of the life you desire. You don't have to run out and get it. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to get a master's degree in it. You don't have to teach yourself into it. You could just actually just you can be that. And I think another thing is we don't stop to know what do we want, right? What are our talents and strengths and purposes, and where could we step into? And then holding that vision, like you said. I love what you said about your partner. You're like, it's alive, it's there, he's here. I don't know when he's coming. Holding that vision and releasing the how am I going to get there? How am I going to figure it out my way? Right? That messy, chaotic brain of how am I going to get there? What am I going to do? Give me let it go. Hold that vision, see it clearly, see it clearer and clearer every day. Add detail to it, like you did. He spoons me. I know what he's into. I know what he likes. I know what he makes. I know what his sense of humor is, because those are real things. And you are creating him, and you're releasing the how. I don't know how or when he's going to get there. I'm not worried about it. It's none of my effing business. Actually, it's the universe's, right? I'm just going to hold that vision, and I know I'm going to get there. I love that. I think that's so powerful.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is just, how the manifestor generator manifests things into
Just
existence.
like
But
that.
also, what I want to, just like that. But also, what I want to mention, on top of what you just said, is this experience that actually came to me to share on this podcast when we were saying about like really letting the divine flow through you and just, or as you, and just really, being the universe and allowing it to everything to happen. One of my On one of my psychedelic experiences, I literally felt like no matter what I do, whether I become even a thief or a murderer or whatever, or I do nothing, or I, do this or that, whatever I do, I am still an expression of God. I am still a part of the universe, and I'm still so worthy and so valuable for the whole expansion of the whole universe, just because of my expression, just because of my individual perspective. And it doesn't matter which way I go or what do I choose. I can just be, or I can spend my whole life just on the sofa or in nature, or or run a business or help a lot of people, or not. Just whatever I do, I am still divine. I am still the source. I'm still the part of everything, and it's worthy and valuable for the whole expansion of the universe. So whatever I choose to do, even if it's quote unquote bad things that I choose to do, which I won't because they're just not in harmony with that with me, but even if I did choose this, it's still valuable and still worthy for the wholeness of everything. And it was just such a beautiful feeling. Like, I literally felt like I am a part of God. Like, I am
Yeah.
the universe, I am
Yeah.
source. And it just was so beautiful that I really wanted to share this, because like no matter what you do, you are worthy because you exist. Because if you were not worthy, you wouldn't exist. Like, this universe is like interconnected, and everything, every little speck of dust is there for a reason. So you are there for a reason too. So no matter what you do, you are so worthy already right
Mm.
now as you are. So I just wanted to share this
Oh,
insight that I got.
so beautiful. And the universe makes no mistakes, right? My exhale is your inhale. We are all connected. And you could choose to do nothing and be so worthy, but you do have a unique responsibility to maximize your energy. And by that I don't mean doing the most. I mean to get to know yourself and what your energy was put in this space to do, and you know what it is too. And I think that I use the word responsibility so lightly because it's we're all responsible for ourselves, but when someone told me you are responsible for your part in this beautiful beautiful world that we live in, it's like, "Oh, I better make it really dang good then. I better find out what it is," right? And never in a million years, if you would have told me a year ago, 1 year ago, that I was gonna be a life coach and I was going to be adequate to help heal people, I would have thought, "Oh, you got the wrong girl. You simply have the wrong girl. I am not healed myself. There's no way I can't even help myself. How could I help anybody else?" And in 1 year, I mean, I have left behind six-figure careers to go in all in. I don't even know how it's gonna shake out, and frankly, I don't really care because I know my intention is to help people find their truth again, find themselves again. And it doesn't always look like a career change or something crazy, like I said, it just is a easier way of living. That's all. An easier way of being. And I'm so passionate about that, and so are you. I can see it so clearly. That's why I feel like we've been friends forever, which I love. Yeah, so good.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. Oh my God, I feel like your words are really landing in my heart, and I really intend to land for to all the people who listen. I really
Um,
intend for all these words to land in your heart so deeply, because it's all true. It's just divine truth flowing through us, the truth
it
of the
is.
universe.
Yeah.
And so, if people vibe with you as much as I do, where could they find you to work with
Um,
you, and
uh,
where can they see your content? What's the best way to contact you?
yeah. Let's see. I hang out on Instagram mostly. I'm super active there. My username is Britley Ann, BritleyAnn. You can find me there. Like I said, I'll share with you the Pause Breathwork app, and if anything, download the 14-day trial and just see if breath works for you. It's very user friendly, very digestible for new users. But yeah, that's where you can hang out with me. My website's divineyourlife.co. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. And right here on this podcast. I've
Beautiful.
loved hanging out with you and
Thank
all
you
your
so,
listeners.
so much. Oh my God. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
everything that you shared. It was just really so beautiful.
Mm.
Everything, every insight that you have given. And I'm so grateful to you for agreeing to be on this podcast. Seriously.
I'm so grateful for you inviting me. I know that the community you've created is so aligned with healing, and I know all your listeners are so powerful. I just know that about you. I know anyone that's listening and leaning in right now is so divine and beautiful, and I know that whatever your journey is, you're in the right place, and you're
Hmm.
exactly where you need to be.
Mm.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for listening. This conversation was amazing. I'm just so energized by this chat, and I hope that you too. If you'd like to find me, I am the Connection Catalyst. Find me on Instagram, and also you can check out We Are Soul Fam if you'd like to see the snippets of all the beautiful podcast episodes that we have. And we are in the process of building Soul Fam app, that is a social networking app for conscious and spiritual people. So stay tuned to this and follow us to know when that's live. And stay tuned to the next episode as well. Much love to you.